All right, guys, today in class, we worked with solving real world two-step equations. So let's review really quickly. The first thing we're going to do when we're solving a real world two-step equation is we're going to identify the variable. So we're going to read through there, we're going to figure out what we don't know and identify that variable. Then we're going to look and we're going to see if the variable has a coefficient. Okay, so we got to dig in and we got to see, is there anything that we're multiplying that variable by every single time? Then we're going to identify any constants that we see. So anything that's not going to change, anything we're going to add on or we're going to subtract no matter what. We're going to determine which mathematical operation that we're going to use. We're going to have to identify what the equation is equal to. And then we're going to write the equation and solve using our SADMEP, using our two-step equation method. So let's take a look at some examples. Example 1 says the basketball team held their annual banquet last week. The cost to rent a function room was $154 and the price of the food was $12 per person. How many people attended if the total the team spent was $826? So first off, we're going to identify the variable. Now the variable in this problem is P for people because we don't know how many people attended the banquet. Now our coefficient, we're looking for anything that we've multiplied the variable by. So we're multiplying each person that comes by $12. So our coefficient is going to be 12 because it costs $12 for each person for food at this banquet. Then we need to dig in and see if there's a constant. We need to see if there's anything in this problem that we're going to add on or subtract no matter what. And we see that our constant is going to be $154 because we're going to have to pay that $154 no matter if one person comes to the banquet or if we have 200 people at the banquet. Okay. Now, we also see that the team spent, okay, the total price was $826. So that's what our equation is going to be set equal to. It's going to equal 826. Okay, so now we need to write the equation and solve it. So we know that we have 12 times each person that comes plus the $154 for the function room, and all of that equaled $826. So our equation says 12p plus 154 equals 826. Okay, now we're going to solve it just like we know how to solve our two-step problems. So we're going to draw a line through our equal sign, and then we're going to use SADMEP, or the reverse order of operations, to help us solve. So using SADMEP, using the reverse order of operations, first I see that I need to cancel out this plus $154. To do that, I'm going to subtract $154. And whatever I do on the left, I have to come over here and do the exact same thing on the right. So I'm going to subtract, I'm going to have a plus 154, I'm going to have a minus 154, and those two are going to cancel out. And I'm only left with my 12p. So now we have 12p equals, and now I've got to do 826 minus 154, which gives me 672. Now we're down to a one-step equation that we know how to solve. Between our coefficient and our variable, between our 12 and our p, we know that we have multiplication happening here. So to isolate the variable, to get it all by itself, we're going to have to divide by 12. Whatever I do on the left, I also have to come over here and do on the right. Okay, so now we have a times by 12 and a divide by 12. Those two cancel each other out and we're left with just a p. And then we have 672 divided by 12. That gives us a 56. So we get that our answer is P equals 56. So that tells us that the people attended the banquet was 56 people. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Let's look at number 2. Number 2 says the student council printed shirts for their members. Each shirt cost $13.75, and the printing company charged a $28 setup fee. How many shirts did the student council buy if the total money they spent on a shirts was $248? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to identify the variable. And our variable here is how many shirts. So I'm going to use an S to represent shirts. Okay, Now we're looking to see if our variable has a coefficient. Are we multiplying our variable by anything? And if you look, it says each shirt cost. So we know that we're going to multiply each shirt by $13.75. Now we're looking for a constant. Is there anything that we're going to be charged no matter what? And we see that there's a $28 setup fee. That's going to be our constant. We're going to have to add that on no matter if we print one shirt or if we print 75 shirts. Okay. Now, it says they spent, their total was $248. So we're going to set our equation equal to $248. If we write our expression, we're going to take our $13 times the amount of shirts we bought plus the $28 setup fee, and that's going to be equal to $248. So we have 13.75 plus 28 equals $248. And now we're going to solve just like normal. So I'm going to draw my line through the equal sign, and we're going to use SADMIP to help us undo or to solve this two-step equation. So the first thing I know I need to take care of is my addition. So I need to eliminate the addition, and I'm going to do that by using the inverse operation, which is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract by 28. Whatever I do on the left, I have to come over here and do the exact same thing on the right. So I'm going to subtract 28 on the right as well. We have a plus 28 and we have a minus 28. Those two are opposites, they're going to cancel, and it leaves us with just a 13.75s. So now we have 248 minus 28, and that gives us 220. So now we're down to a one-step equation that we know how to solve. We have 13.75s equals 220. I need to get that s all by itself, so we know that there's multiplication happening between my coefficient and my variable. To undo my multiplication, I'm going to divide by 13.75, and whatever I do on the left, I've got to come over here and do on the right as well. So I'm going to divide by 13.75. So my times by 13.75 and my divide by 13.75, those cancel out, and we're left with just our s. So now we're going to divide 220 divided by 13.75, and we get 16. Okay, so this answer tells us S equals 16, or that the club bought 16 shirts.